signing on to my podcast right now, so bear with me. Welcome to another episode of Real Estate, Real Life, Real Talk, Real Live with the real secrets of money with your host, myself, Damon J. Brockenberry, extraordinary, also known as Damon the Agent. I want to thank you all for joining me today. It's Friday, August the 7th, 2026, y'all. Look, time is flying. It is August already. It is almost near the end of the summer. School is about to start. I just came back from a business trip, so I've been gone the past 2 weeks, but I want to thank each and every one of you all for joining me today. If you're not following me on all social media platforms, please do so. It is always hashtag Damon the Agent, except I have another one on Instagram, which is hashtag Damon the Advocate. As you see right here where it says Associate Broker and Financial Protection Advocate. So that's Damon the Advocate if you're don't follow me on that. But again, I'm on everything: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Threads, Snapchat, TikTok, and YouTube. So as always, I like to get into the wonderful world of real estate. And I'm going to talk today briefly about the current housing market conditions. Okay. The reason why I'm going to talk briefly about this because it is always changing. And people are always trying to figure out what's going on. What's the latest market? What's the interest rate? What's this? What's that? They always are asking these questions. So I want to just briefly share with you what's currently going on. So you, whether you're a seller or a buyer, will have a clear understanding that where you at. Now I'm going to deal with buyers right now because the fact is there are people out there who are hesitant, who are on the fence. I've even saw a post recently where somebody said that if it's a buyer, it's not a good time to buy. Here's what I said to that, and I responded to that post. I said, whether the housing market is good or bad, whether the economy is good or bad, there's always going to be an opportunity for some people. You can't apply everything to everyone. For some people, because when the economy is bad, guess what? It's not bad for everyone. When the economy is good, guess what? It's not good for everyone. So everyone knows their own situation. You will always have to take a look at your own individual situation and go by that. Do not go by what the media says. Do not go by necessarily what you always hear from friends and sometimes family. You have to take a deep look at yourself and understand. Now, in the housing market right now is becoming more balanced, okay? And it's still challenging because affordability is a major issue with some people. But also keep this in mind. Real estate is always local. Okay. Now, this is what's happening right now with the interest rate. Mortgage rates are averaging between around 6.7% for a 30-year fix, keeping monthly payments relatively high and reducing buyers' purchasing power. Inventory is improving in many markets, giving buyers more choices than they had over the past few years. And the reason why this is so many people are putting their house on the market these days, especially people who have lost their jobs if they work in government because they feel like, okay, if I sell my house, I can take that equity, live off of, or whatever. Now, in some cases, houses are moving, but there are so many houses that are sitting on the market long. Okay. Home prices are still rising nationally, but at a much slower pace than during the pandemic boom. Some markets are seeing price cuts, while others, especially in the Northeast, continue to appreciate. All right. And that is like somewhat around this area going all the way up, Pennsylvania, New York, Maine, New Hampshire, those particular areas. Now, homes are taking longer to sell, and sellers are becoming more willing to negotiate on price, closing costs, repairs, incentives. That means basically, if you are a buyer, you can basically you have more negotiating power. You have more houses to choose from. If rates decline in the future, refinancing may and should be considered an option. And for sellers, this really means pricing your home correctly is critical. Now, I know a lot of sellers like to say, oh, let's start here. Let's start high because they're going to come down on us anyway. That is a poor strategy. Let me explain to you why. A lot of times when your house is substantially overpriced, people think something's wrong with your house. They say, okay, why is that house so high? So they'll go look at the home sometimes just to see why is it priced? What is so special about this house? But a lot of times they be like, no. And then most sellers don't realize you get a stigmatism with you where you are labeled as an unreasonable seller because of the pricing. Now, for seller, where prepared, move-in ready homes continue to attract buyers. Overpriced homes are more likely to sit on the market and require price reduction. Now, here's the thing. Many desirable areas with limited inventory are still seeing strong demand. And that's in certain pockets in the DMV. That's why, for example, some homes are selling quickly and some homes are sitting longer. And sometimes clients, like when the homes are sitting longer, some sellers like to blame the agents, but it's not always the agent, it's just the market condition. And in many cases, it's also your home. Here's the thing. Buyers want to go into a home and be able to move in, have it move in ready with the least required repairs and upgrades as possible, priced at a fair price. Sellers sometimes don't want to do any upgrades, but you're priced high, and then you'll say, oh, well, let them ask me for this and that. If they are working with an agent who don't know how to negotiate, they ain't going to ask you for anything. They're just going to bypass your home. So it's always best to make sure that you're in a position to be ready to sell right then and there. Listen, I'm always a resource because you all know every house that I touch turns to sold. So reach out to me on that. Now, I wanted to talk about that because in depending on which side you on, if you are a buyer, you have more inventory to choose from, you have more negotiating power. If you are a seller, your house has to be priced critically correct from the get-go, not starting up high, thinking that they're going to come down low and not being too low. Here's the thing. The market dictates and show you what's going on. The market, not you, the seller, not the buyer, not the agents, but the market is the one that controls everything. All right. So that is the current market condition as of August the 7th, 2026. Look, I'm going to be back with my house of the week and my Q&A. I'll be right back, y'all. All right, y'all. Now I'm going to my house of the week. This house has been listed today, and it is by my. Oops, hold up. I got to make sure I pull up the right house, y'all. I don't want to pull up the wrong one. Okay, here we go. Oh, nope. Here we go. I thought it was up already. I'm sorry. All right, this is a house in the week. This house is in Baltimore, Maryland, you all. It is a single family home. It is priced slightly above 300 and hold on, let me show you people on TikTok. It is priced slightly above 300,000 at 315. There is an open house tomorrow. Please make sure you go through. It is between the open house is between 12 and 3 p.m. 12 and 3 p.m. Let me hold on. Let me something. Yep, between 12 and 3 p.m. tomorrow, Baltimore, Maryland. This property is located at 1615 Burnwood Road in Baltimore, Maryland. I say check it out. My colleague will be there. Her name is Alicia Arthur. Please go check it out. If you're in the Baltimore area, if you just have some downtime, you want to take a look at it. I know some people like to explore homes. This is one of the homes that you want to explore. Baltimore, Maryland. The reason why I'm going a little bit fast through these pictures is because there are lots of pictures. As you can see, the updated appliances, room, you have room in the backyard. If you know, a lot of Baltimore homes have attached row houses. You can have and host a cookout here, invite company, has a washer and dryer. This is a great rental property for someone who's looking to have a property in the Baltimore area. And it also has a full kitchen in the basement. You should really come check that out. All right, let me stop that real quick. All right, so that was the house in Baltimore. All right, I'm gonna jump into my Q&A, which is my questions and answer. And I always like to welcome people, any and everybody who has questions. If you have any real estate or financial questions, please feel free to send them to me so we can talk about it, okay? The first question of the day is, will townhouses appreciate at the same rate as single family homes? Yeah, I drink my water. That's H2O for you, those of you who are looking. Again, will townhouses appreciate at the rate as single family homes? And the answer to that question is not always. It depends on the local market, supply and demand, location and condition of the property. Even though most single family homes appreciate more over the long term because they typically include more land, and land tends to increase in value, is not necessarily, because townhomes can appreciate just as well or even better in certain areas where affordability is a major factor or where there is high demand. Now, there are things such as HOA fees, community rules, and the number of comparable sales can also influence appreciation. And then in some townhome community, there's limitation as far as parking. Like, for example, with a single family home, you have more flexibility as far as, let's say you have a business vehicle or truck or whatever. You can park in your driveway, you can park in front of your home in most single family community. Not all, because some single family communities have HOAs. But in townhomes, you're restricted on a lot of things. You know, you can't throw that cookout or have a party be extremely loud. You can't park certain vehicles in certain areas. On top of that, they tow a lot in certain townhome communities. So there's limitations to townhomes versus single family home. But as far as appreciation, it all just depends on location, mainly condition of home, and what's going on in that particular community. Question number 2. What is adverse possession? What is adverse possession? That's a great question. Now, adverse possession is a legal doctrine that allows someone to gain ownership of another person's land if they occupy it for a required period, and meet specific legal requirements. Okay. And that's similar to like what squatters do when people go into the homes and then they try to take over. Generally, the possession must be open and obvious, continuous, exclusive, hostile, without the owner's permission, for the statutory period required by that particular state. Okay, because every state is different. Now, the required time and legal standards vary by state, and so it's important to know your state's law. Question number 3. What insurance challenges come with rural property? What insurance challenges come with rural property? Rural properties often have a unique insurance consideration, including greater distance from fire departments, which can increase premiums. Okay, limited access to hydrants, older wells and septic systems, larger agricultural and additional structures such as barns, sheds, or workshops, livestock or farming operations that may require specialized coverage, higher risk from wind, wildfires, or flooding in certain areas. longer emergency responses time. Some rural properties require farm or ranch insurance instead of standard homeowners insurance. It just really depends on the property. Question number 4. What exactly is a virtual closing? What exactly is a virtual closing? A virtual closing is basically when people are closing remotely. Let's say hypothetically, you're in another state and you cannot make it to closing. Depending on the state that you're selling the property, buyers and sellers may be able to review documents online, sign electronically, meet remotely with a notary to secure the documents, and then they have to wire funds electronically. So a remote closing can be if a seller, let's say hypothetically, is out of town. They can sign the documents, they can provide their banking information to the title company or the attorney, whoever's doing the closing, and they can provide a copy of their IDs to make sure that they are who they are. Now, here's the thing. A lot of fraud has been going on lately that a lot of people may or may not be aware of, especially when it pertains to selling land or vacant property. There are people who are out there who are knowing that people are not home. They know people who are been gone for a while. So people are calling up real estate professionals such as myself and trying to get people to list the property for less than market value and to have a quick closing that they want a remote closing. So you have to be careful when it pertains to sellers or buyers. You have to really know that that person on the other end of the remote closing is actually who they say they are, because there's so much fraud and scamming going on that if you're not, a person's property can be sold underneath them and they won't know until it's too late. So be very careful, very diligent to any agents who are out there. If you get a phone call, somebody want to list their property, because I got a call a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to share this with you all real quick. I got a call a couple of weeks ago, and a guy, he texted me at first, okay? And then when he texted me, he said he had a property out here. He wanted to know, was I able to, he found me on Zillow. He wanted to know if I able to list it. And I said, okay. I texted him back. I asked him, when can we do a call? So he called me, okay? That's not the trigger. He called me. So then we got off the call. I reached back out to him. I said, when can we do a Zoom call? He said, oh, I'm in a nursing home. He said he was in a hospital and he was dying and he couldn't do a Zoom call. I said, okay, well, send me a copy of your driver's license because I need to verify your identity, that you are who you say you are and that this person for the land. Never heard back from him. Then I recently found out one of my colleagues, she had a similar situation where someone contacted her to list the property. She listed the property, got a contract for the property. Then the original owner called her. Wasn't even that person. And then I remember some years ago, I had a situation in for the land that I had for sale. Similar thing. People said they were, this person sent me IDs and I found out they weren't who they really were. So there's a lot of scamming going on. So even with the virtual closing that occurs, you know, title companies have to really verify that the people are who they say they are, because there's so many scammers. And because of the way the internet is today, people are trying to find slick ways of stealing property and things of that nature. Okay. Question number 5. What's a client story that sticks with me? What's a client story that sticks with me? I have several client stories, but I'm going to share one, maybe two. One client story is I have a client who bought a home nearly 10 years ago, and I've been in contact with her. Actually, she's in the process of getting some mortgage protection for her home right now, being as though I'm an insurance agent now / financial protection advocate. But the story that sticks out with me with her is I remember when she bought this home and it was in DC, and she was crying at the table. Now, don't get me wrong, people are happy, but very few people have cried at the settlements that I've been involved in. And she was crying at the table. She was crying because It meant so much to her to buy a home for her children. It meant so much because she said her father used to buy real estate properties, and he had so many properties and everything, but he ended up losing them, and she wanted to start that process over for herself and her family. And it made me just feel good as a real estate professional that I was able to help her, because she did go through HPAC program in DC, that I was able to help her secure a property for her family, because it made her feel so good. So I, you know, I really, it really touched my heart with that particular client, because what we do and what I've always done as a real estate professional is I always put myself in my client's shoes, and I could understand her desire, her passion. Her father's no longer alive. So she was really, I'm saying, that was really emotional for her father. But at the same time, she had kids and stuff that she wanted to leave a legacy on with them, as far as building a portfolio, a real estate portfolio. That's one client. One story that sticks out with me. And that's on the buyer side. On the seller side, I'm going to say another story that sticks out with me is I remember selling a client's home years ago. And this was around the time when short sales were starting to become popular and the housing market was crashing. I've been licensed since 2005, but I believe this was around 2007, 2008. And what ended up happening was my clients, we found out at the table that they were short. The sellers, they had to come up with money in order to make the deal close. Back then, now they send out 3 days prior to settlement, the alter statement. But back then they used to call it a HUD-1, and sometimes they didn't send the HUD-1 until the day of settlement. So I remember we got the HUD-1 the day of settlement, and my clients had to end up bringing money to the table. They were sellers. Now picture that you think you're getting some equity, and now you have to bring money. But that's what was discovered after a while, because the appraisal and the closing costs and all that. So I recall my broker telling me, saying, don't cut your commission. He wasn't the broker, he was the owner. Actually, he was the owner of I was with Exit. He said, don't cut your commission. And I'm looking at the couple, and I'm saying to myself, yeah, I want to get paid, but I didn't get into real estate to just get paid. I got into real estate to help people. And I ended up cutting my commission. And at that time, I think it was about a couple of $1,000 and everything. To me, it is more meaningful to help people than to get paid, because here's the thing that I've always looked at. If I do my job and look after people, I'm going to get paid regardless. That's one thing. Number two, once the money's gone, because no matter when you get money, it's going to go somewhere. But that memory and me helping them stays with me forever. So even though my owner said, don't cut your commission, let them figure it out, I cut my commission, because I was there to help them figure it out. Because I look at myself not as a real estate professional, I look at myself as a problem solver. So those are two of the stories that stick out with me when it pertains to real estate. Now, I can go on and on. I'll be on here for hours talking about all the stories that I've experienced in 21 years. But those are two stories that stick out with me, one from the sellers and one from the buyers. So I'm going to be back with my topic of the day. All right. Now, before I begin my topic of the day, as always, if you're not following me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Threads, Snapchat, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Pinterest, now is your opportunity to follow me. Go ahead on and follow me. It's always hashtag Damon the Agent, but on Instagram, I have two pages, hashtag Damon the Agent and hashtag Damon the Advocate. So you can find me on that, or you can just type in my name, Damon J. Brockenberry, on all these social media platforms, and I'll be happy to return the love. Now, my topic of today is communication is the key. And the reason why I like to say this is because I realize that in the Black community, many of us have poor communication, all right? Terrible communication. Sometimes we do things and we act like, oh, time has gone by, so it's over with. Sometimes, when it pertains to the things that we don't say, it's also a form of communication. Because here's the thing, no response is a response, whether you realize it. But I also know that a lot of times what I've seen over the years in my 54 years on this planet is us as Black people, we are still suffering from the after effects of slavery, whether you realize it or not. The trauma, you know what I'm saying? The trauma has been spread from one generation to the next generation. And a lot of times, a lot of people don't like to go to counseling. They don't like to do healing because they don't want anybody in their business. But what they fail to realize is your behavior is going to bring people in your business. It's going to bring stranger in your business. This is why a lot of times when you see a whole bunch of Black people get together, it's always chaos and confusion. Fights break out, jealousy and envy happen. Sometimes shooting, people get hurt. Sometimes people get killed. We don't know how to communicate sometimes. We are like uncivilized people. And then even when it pertains to family thing, poor communication. People make so much assumptions that they run with their assumptions. People really, if you find out a lot of the rumors about you, half of it is about assumptions that people then read on and spread, and because people want to talk and they want to seem like they so smart. But truth be told, they're really dumb. Okay. I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. People ain't as smart as they think they are. They not. Really. Because if you're so smart and you're so intelligent and everything, then your lifestyle is going to show it in the way you live, the money you earn, the company you keep. But here's the thing. Communication is the key to every relationship that you have in your life, whether it's with your neighbor, whether it's with your coworkers, whether it's with your mother and father, whether it's with your children, whether it's with your spouse, whether it's with your friends. Poor communication is so rampant in our community that it is terrible. I sit back and I watch and I listen and I respond and I say certain things, and I'm just kind of mesmerized by how some people have gone so many years stuck in a rut, stuck where they are, stuck at the fact that they content with their life, but you don't realize that your communication is piss poor. It is terrible. It causes friction. It causes tension. It causes you not to speak to people. It causes, and when you don't speak to people, that's when the assumptions come in because, yeah, they this, they that. You got stuff going on in your mind. That's what psychopaths and narcissists go through and stuff too. People just want to conjure up all these ideas in their mind and they think that they're actually right, but you haven't communicated effectively. And one of the things that I also see go rapid in our community is everybody want to be heard, but don't nobody want to listen. Don't nobody want to listen. People are listening to respond. They're not hearing. They're not hearing. Everybody want to talk. Everybody want to talk. Nobody is listening either. Communication is a form of speaking, verbalizing your expression, and listening, hearing, and comprehending. A lot of people don't have that, unfortunately. Regardless of what they say or what they do, they don't want to believe it. They can say, oh, yeah, he ain't talking about me. But half the time, I'm talking about you, whether you realize it or not. Especially men. A lot of men have terrible communication. A lot of men express their feelings or whatever's going on in a form of aggression, whether that comes out in sport, sex, fighting, whatever. That's how a lot of men deal with it. A lot of men can't verbalize how they thinking, their thought process. That's why a lot of men be looking dumb. Huh? I'm just saying, communication is the key to living the lifestyle that you desire. Doesn't matter what that lifestyle is. It's what's coming out of your mouth or what's not. Because remember, no response is a response. And that is poor communication. I challenge everyone to work on their communication to have effective and clear and precise communication. And I challenge people to listen. The problem is one of the things that we as a people do when someone is communicating that we don't like what they're saying, we either become defensive, we deflect, or we deny. We want to deny, oh, that ain't me. Or we want to deflect. No, and then you try to put it on the other person. Or we become defensive. We'll never grow. if we don't learn to listen, y'all, we will never grow. We will never grow. Now, before I go, I want to talk to you about retirement as well, too. Look, I have a question for all of you out there who are contemplating retirement, who will be going through retirement in the next couple of years, or who want to build for their retirement, okay? I have a question, all right? And my question is, do you feel comfortable if you were to retire in the next 5 years? Are you comfortable with that? Like, if you were to retire within the next 5 years, are you comfortable? And if you are, kudos to you. But if you're not, I would say reach out to me so that I can help you to mitigate a legal, free way without dealing with Uncle Sam, morally and ethically. Let's talk for 5 to 10 minutes. That's it. I just need a 5 or 10-minute conversation with you. DM me or call or text me if you have my number. But you can always find me, like, if you're on social media, just DM me. That way I can get back to everyone at the same time. But again, do you feel comfortable if you were to retire within the next 5 years? I want you to really ask yourself that question, because that's a question we all need to ask. And the reason why I'm asking that question is because I see so many of our parents who have to live with their kids. And I also see a lot of older people that a lot of times they have to do jobs that they don't want to do, especially if they're not coupled up. Meaning sometimes, unfortunately, one spouse may pass away before the other. So it's harder. So sometimes they have to live with their kids. But I also see a lot of couples who are like older couples. When I say older, I mean like over 70, 80 years old, who are traveling, who still live in their homes, who got a lot of stuff going on. And you know what I realized? They have the proper retirement in place. Many of us don't. So if you're over the age of 35, you definitely need to be working on your retirement. If you're over the age of 55, you definitely need to be putting some stuff in place for the next couple of years. If you're over the age of 70 years old and you've already retired, please reach out to me because I still have something for you. And listen, I want to end on this commercial as I always do, but guess what? I got a new commercial coming out and I will be playing it next week. And you all are going to like that one. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you this one from 2017, 2018. It was either 2018, 2019. Either way, I still like it because, hey, I'm Damon the Agent. Thank you all for joining me, and I will see you all next week.
We sure could use the money.
Time for some upgrades. We're pregnant.
Oh my goodness, I need to downsize.
We buy houses for cash as is.
Damon the Agent. A name you can trust.